Alright, so Invincible Season 3 just ended, and I've got a lot of thoughts on this season. So let's just get into it. I'm going to start explaining the summary first, and like what happened in the season. Then I'll get to like the actual plot points. If you haven't watched this season, yeah, don't watch this video because there's spoilers in it, obviously. The season starts off with Donald telling us that Mark's strength has increased so much, I think about 113%. Mark's training under Cecile's supervillains to gain enough strength to try and compete against any Viltrumites that may come, like Anissa said back in season 2. Mark's hanging out with William and Rick when they tell him that he should confess his feelings to like Eve and tell her that he loves her. But they also tell him not to tell her about the future Eve, which he does obviously do that for fuck's sake. While asking out Eve, Eve basically rejects him for the moment. As soon as this happens, even Marco also called for help as Dr. Seismic has broken out of prison and has kidnapped Earth superheroes. Mark and Eve come but fail and also get captured by Dr. Seismic and underground creatures. Cecile sends in Darkwing to help, and he helps the rest of his superheroes to get free. Mark's also furious that Darkwing's here because he was a villain back then and now he's like, normal. So he also confronts Cecil, and then Cecil traps him in the White Room, which Cecil says is for his own protection against Mark. And that was in episode 2, which Mark destroys all the Reanimen, showing that Cecil has implanted a chip into Mark as well, into his brain that creates a roar that causes Mark's intense pain and prevents him from, flying or doing anything like, being able to fight. Mark goes to the Guardians for help, but Cecil arrives and attacks Mark for more the Reanimen. The Guardians help out Mark by helping him with the Reanimen, but Cecil activates the roar again and Mark is in intense pain again, of course, subduing him. Robot deactivates the chip inside Mark's brain and Cecil gives in and deactivates his Reanimate. A furious Mark threatens to kill Cecil as if he's approached him or his family, ending their working relationship. The Guardians also break up. Mark finally receives a blue and black suit, which looks really good. It's a very clean suit, and I also think it just looks as good as it does in the comics. Oliver, Mark's brother, also gets his own suit at first, calls himself Kid Omni-Man, but Mark says he shouldn't call himself that, as, the destruction that Nolan caused in Season 1, Episode 8, which is unforgivable, and that people might not be happy if he names himself Kid Omni-Man. Later on, the Maulers break into a missile area and nearly killing the Guardians. Oliver ends up killing the Mauler twins somehow and tells Mark that he believes that he should kill people. Mark doesn't agree. Oliver then asks Mark if he has ever thought about the fact that Nolan was right. Meanwhile, later on, an orb is shown before Mark blows it up and is revealed to the audience that Angstrom is still alive. Meanwhile, in space, Nolan is facing execution. But Alan breaks out and frees the Battle Beast to get his help. They both charge into the execution room and they start fighting the Viltrumites. Battle Beast then takes on one whilst Alan acts like he's getting beaten by one in order to get Nolan the motivation to free himself and help. They successfully defeat the Viltrumite with the battle against the Beast and the other Viltrumite going into space far away. In the end, Nolan and Alan have jumped and escaped the Viltrumite prison and are now joined together to rebel against the Viltrum Empire. Mark and Eve also eventually get together as Eve says why not give it a chance, and they reveal to each other they had feelings to each other. They also start dating in a flashback. So we're in episode 6 now, the Powerplex episode. In a flashback, Scott Duval, a GDA scientist, actually reveals that he experiences his sister and niece's death, which Nolan and Mark were fighting, which believes that Mark was responsible for the death, which makes sense, to be honest. He steals advanced biocapacitors, which advance his abilities and convert kinetic energy into electrical power. Then he publicly challenges Mark, and Mark ignores him, but then he lets the Guardians deal with him. Powerplex defeats Shapesmith Sonic and flees as Mark doesn't come. Later on in the Chicago Massacre Memorial, Powerplex arrives and tries to lure Mark out again, but is defeated and captured by Eve. He escapes and then confronts Mark again, while using his wife and kid to lure Mark in as Powerplex is fighting Mark. He also kills his own wife and kid without realizing. Mark captures him and puts him in GDA custody. Scott vows that he will avenge Mark. Then we see Angstrom gathering all the Invincible variants ready for the Invincible War. The Invincible War starts and Angstrom sends the Invincible variants to destroy Earth and tarnish Mark's image. The GDA suffers extreme loss, Eve getting injured during a battle with the variants, and Mark takes her to hospital. Rex sacrifices himself to kill one of the variants, and for 1 second I just want to say rest in peace Rex, we will not forget you. Rex was so peak, his character and his arc will be missed as well. He went from one of the most hated character arcs to one of the most loved character arcs, which is like redemption basically. We'll miss him, man. The Invincible variants meet up with Angstrom and then they eventually turn on him, leading to Angstrom trapping them all in a desolate Earth, which is like an empty space. He then goes and attacks Mark himself, and Mark almost beats and kills Angstrom, but Angstrom escapes and goes to the technicians, who previously healed him from Mark's last attack. They refuse to tell him that they will only heal him if he demands to their will. As the world is slowly on the heel, a Viltrumite named Conquest arrives on the air above, and Mark tells him that the planet is not ready for Viltrum Empire takeover. Mark then charges at Conquest to vent his rage, and the battle begins. As Mark and Conquest starts the fight, I'm gonna make this so intense. Buildings are falling, people are dying. Oliver tries to help Mark, but then literally gets fucking clapped, bro. I'm not even joking. But then seriously injured by Conquest as he nearly splits Oliver in two halves. Eve actually managing to wake up in the hospital, rushing to help Mark, but is overpowered by Conquest, and she is impaled through the flipping heart, bro. Mark's severely injured after Conquest snapped his bones, is enraged, still gets overpowered by Conquest, before Eve temporarily releases her mental block, which is like her inner power, and allows her to reconstruct her body and burn Conquest's skin, allowing Mark to defeat and kill him with his head, which was one of the most craziest and scariest scenes when you look at it. Mark, after using the adrenaline rush, passes out next to Eve and wakes up in the hospital. Debbie apologizes to him, bringing him to the world, but Mark's telling her it's not her fault. The world slowly starts to rebuild as we see more teasers for the next season, which is like the return of Sequid, which I think we saw him in season 2, episode something. I don't know what episode it was, near the start, I'm pretty sure. Battle Beast found in space and revealed that Cecil's keeping Conquest in an underground prison if he wants to interrogate him. But if you read the comics, you know how that goes. Fuck's sake, why did he even plan on doing that? He really thinks 400 feet is going to trap him. Like, we're talking about Conquest here, the most powerful being right now. Then we see Mark telling Oliver that Oliver was right, and from now on he'll kill anyone who tries to threaten the world or anyone in danger. Which, I guess it kind of makes him an anti-hero, but he's not really at the same time. In the mid-credits scene, we see Darkblood return as he meets with the Demon Overlord to try and help reinstate him as Hell's ruler by exploiting a powerful being on Earth, which I heard that it's an animated original scene, and also heard rumors that season 4 might be animation only, not followed from the comics, which if they do that seems pretty cool. So yeah, that is really much Invincible season 3. I'm gonna just address my positives and negatives now. So, personally, I think this was a really good season. The last episode was a straight 10 out of 10, definitely my favourite episode in the entire show. The Invincible War was great. Hot take though, the Powerplex episode was kind of mid for a variety of reasons. Like, Powerplex being kind of a mediocre character, like, he was getting traumatized. I understand that, but he was, like, threw away his entire family just to kill Mark, which doesn't make any sense because of how he feels to live. He knows how it feels to lose loved ones. I'm pretty sure their names was, like, Jessica Turner or something like that, and another one. However, I am aware that we do see him again in a later season, which has a redemption, so maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. I did like the Invincible War, however, it did have its problems. Like, the Invincibles, most of them just got taken out quite easily and nerfed, which is one of my problems with Invincible in Season 3 in general, where they just say his strength has increased heavily. And yet, in the episodes, you see him getting bodied by Dragon and Powerplex, which is practically the reason Powerplex's kid and wife got fired like a goddamn oven. Even with Asim Eve, I feel like she gets Gwen Tennyson treatment. But not as bad, because Gwen's powers could be insane. But all you see her do practically in Alien Force and some of Ultimate Alien. Even Alien Force Season 2 and 1 in general is just, mainly Season 3 though, shoot pink energy cylinders, which is just like, okay, at least Atom Eve didn't get that type of treatment. Anyway, but back to the episode, we're talking about episode 7 now, Invincible War. While it was great, I also think it could have been longer, but the episodes who are also complaining, like the people who are also complaining about it being rushed and short, if they've watched Ben and know about the war that, like, in that show and praise it, they can't really talk because it's literally the same thing, if not Invincible's is way better. I'm not gonna lie though, I do also like the ups about how well characterized the evil marks were compared to in the comics, where Omni Mark basically is Ford Mortal 2.0 and dies to a yo-yo and doesn't even get as much attention and look cool. Personally, my fave Mark was Hoodvincible because of his character and the relatable part where he says... But yeah, I thought the Invincible War was really good. And yes, I am aware we do see him again, of course, at the Empty World, and I don't know which Mark survives, but because I don't read the comics and I don't want to read the comics, but there are 2 Marks that survive, I'm pretty sure. And they have a mini fight scene with Good Mark and Robot versus them two, which is cool. I also do gotta say episode 8, which I said before was the Conquest fight, has probably, hot take, some of the best scenes and some of the best fight choreography in animation history and fiction, which I find great. I also like how they actually saved the budget up for the episode 8 animation. They stuck true to their words and they offered some of the best fight scenes we've seen in animation or fiction, and probably the best fight scene we've seen in Invincible, which was great. Very sad, deep moments too. I like that, like I stated before, and yeah, it was just peak. But anyway, that's all I really got to say about Invincible Season 3. And yeah, not much problems, honestly. I did enjoy most of the episodes, and I'll be honest, if it wasn't for episodes 7 and 8, I would have given it like a 7 to 7.5, but maybe even high 6. But even then, you had the first 3 episodes, which was really good. 4, which was decent to good. 5, which was fillerish as hell, but not bad though. 6 was mid though, I'm not gonna lie, like I said, wasn't a big fan of the Powerplex episode. 7 was great, and 8 was peak. Like I said, that's all I gotta say. I hope they do make the animation better in Season 4 though, and I'm really wishing they do, because the animation is something that is taken down Invincible. It wasn't as bad in Season 1. After that, you kind of notice more of the problems, especially in Season 3. I don't understand why they did it though, because it makes sense for animation, budget problems. And I also heard something about the employees not like getting much pay or something like that. There's not much animators helping out with Invincible for some reason. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.